And we are live on They Talk Funny. Today in studio, I have the pleasure of talking to one of the writers from Patriot Act, Scott Vrooman. Scott is here connecting all the way from, are you currently in New York?
Hello.
Or
I am, yes. I'm looking out at the skyline right now. I think my face will be less and less lit up as the sun sets. Sorry.
You've got a nice sort of a golden hue, so it looks like it's a bit sun.
Magic hour. Magic hour in my bedroom.
Scott, you have been a comedy writer for pretty much most of your adult life. Would that be fair to say?
I actually started out as an economist for a couple of years, but that was I met my sketch group when I was doing a master's degree, and then got recruited into an economist job for a couple of years while I was doing comedy, and then eventually was able to do that full time.
Which it's brilliant, and I guess that kind of leads us into the talking to. I want to mention that the sketch group that you were a member of is called Picnicface. They were originally based in Halifax. It started out with Kyle Dooley and Mark Little, and then it quickly, after Andy Bush and Bill Wood kind of joined, it grew, and there was a large turnover of members at the beginning, but you were one of the core people that came in.
I was the last one to join. Yeah, I think Ebony was the third one to join, the three, and then Mark, Ebony, and Kyle did improv together.
Yes.
And yeah, by the time I had shown up, they had been doing sketch together for quite a while. And yeah, once I joined, then that was pretty much, it was the 8 of us, and that's how we were.
How old were you doing your master's, by the way? Because you seemed so young. You dressed very.
I don't want to say my name on here, Paul. Come on, I didn't. Or my age. All right.
Were you?
You had asked me before. You're like, "What is there anything you don't want me to ask?" And I said no.
Well, you're well younger than me. That we definitely know.
Sure, we'll leave it at that.
But were you one of the older or younger members? I
was on the older of the spectrum. I was definitely on the older.
On the older side, yes. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was the thing that really struck me as I was in the Halifax comedy scene at that time, so I got to see your guys' work ethic was madness. Like you guys really worked a proper writing room, and there was no financial payoff for you guys at that time. Like there was nothing. Really
no, it was really, but it was so I don't remember. I've done this past year has been one of the hardest I've worked, and that felt a lot different. It was so much driven by just fun and joy. That not that I haven't had a lot of fun and joy from my work now, but it's much more professional. And then it was much more we were motivated completely by the joy of it. So it didn't feel like work so much.
Like work. I'm going to throw up a group photo because you were a member of Picnicface, and for anyone that has difficulty pulling you out, it's right there in the red circle. That's Scott Vrooman.
It's me with no Cubs hat on.
with no Cubs hat on, yeah. And as a group, you guys generated so much content. It was like every 2 weeks you had a show that was, I think, 50% new content.
Yeah, like the live shows. Yeah, the YouTube stuff was much more sporadic. We could never do what these YouTube groups do now, pumping videos out every week. We weren't nearly that organized, but we were organized enough to put on a very sloppy live show every couple of weeks.
And you have to say that the people that are putting out stuff now, technology has actually progressed to the point that I can do this show fairly easily from my quarantine in Montreal and reach out to people like you in New York. The technology's there for YouTubers and people who are just generating content. I think it makes a difference. About how often were you guys meeting to write? Because
I don't remember. I think we wouldn't often do group writing meetings. it was usually either independent or break off in pairs or triplets, and kind of we would come together on Sunday with our kind of ideas to rehearse or finish off. And it wasn't really a formal writing process until we did like the TV show, and then there was certainly a room. But for the just messing around Ginger's Tavern stuff, we were more independent then.
Yeah, it's now the first viral hit was co-written with you and Mark Little, and that was Power Thirst.
Yeah.
Which I believe that got you a 2008 award, a comedy award from YouTube.
I don't know. It got us the partner. We were one of the first partners on YouTube. It got us that, so that we could like monetize our videos. That was a new thing. But yeah, and then we got like a comedy award for Sketch Troupe a little while later. I don't think we got any awards that year, but that's okay.
If I do remember correctly, I think Power Thirst went to the front page of YouTube when YouTube had a front page.
Yeah, when YouTube had a front page.
Will Ferrell liked it and shared it.
Yeah, he had his actual little favorite section on Funny or Die when that was just starting out.
Yeah, and the Funny or Die,
like, you know, YouTube is like half the media economy now, and like Funny or Die has become its own like production company and its own unit now. Like, yeah, they've come a long way. They've done very well for themselves.
And you have as well. I mean, you're living in New York. You're facing a beautiful sunset, and
it's getting.
You're writing on Patriot Act now. Mm-hmm. In the steps in between, you also get to be a correspondent for This Hour's 22 Minutes.
Yeah, I did. Well, it was quite a while I worked at 22, because I did, right after Picnicface was canceled, I worked there for a year as a correspondent. And then I went to LA.
Actually, I sort of jumped that. I probably shouldn't have jumped that, because Picnicface went from like a YouTube sketch troupe to actually having a TV series. And in that year, you guys won Best TV Series, Best Ensemble Cast, and Best Writing on a TV Series. Only canceled afterwards.
Well, it's Canada. It's we had a real year. In like 2011, we had a book come out and a TV show and a movie. The movie was Roll the Town. Wasn't an officially like Picnicface thing, but it starred all the members of the group. And then, the show just lasted a season, and then I moved on to 22 Minutes.
Now, among the things you, as a correspondent, you actually started getting into political comedy, I guess, then, because Picnicface wasn't really known for its political comedy.
No, we did nothing political at all. But I kind of like had an inkling that way, and I went. When Picnicface is still going, and I was still living in Halifax, like I went to like a protest, I think against like the proroguing of Parliament that Stephen Harper did, and went and like spoke and gave this sort of like satirical speech, and people liked it. And I started doing a kind of like blog thing and writing things of my own. And like iPolitics is a website. I started writing kind of satirical, basically Colbert derivative stuff. And then eventually got hired at 22 Minutes. It was very good timing. I was very lucky, because in Canada there's limited opportunities, and I was able to go from one TV show to another.
Are you familiar with the Beaverton? Which is
I am, yes.
Yeah. So they're carrying on that torch.
And I mean 22 Minutes is still kicking.
Yeah, but your knowledge of politics has served you well, because you're among the writing team that puts together Patriot Act. So
hey, there we are. I just saw everyone on Zoom. We did a big like toast because we just finished this cycle.
Right. Yeah.
That was back when we could be together physically.
You had there was a special episode this cycle that came out outside of the regular. What can I say? The outside of the regular broadcast, which was about George Floyd. And this channel, like a lot of channels that you see on YouTube, it's sponsored by the audience. But anyone who would normally be sponsoring to this channel, I just ask that you donate in the name of George Floyd. There's the bailfund.org, I believe, is also a good website for bail for protesters. So for people who are doing the good fight. Yeah. So, and Hasan has been, obviously he's been a strong voice towards that. How do you feel that you fit into that group?
As a white guy.
Well, I wasn't thinking as a white guy, but the thing is, you came from Canada. You came from like sketch writing. Again, just to go to Picnicface. Picnicface had sort of a mantra, as in, we don't go for the same laugh twice. Right? Was it?
Yeah. I mean, it's very. What I do now is so completely different from Picnicface. Like it's much more structured, and I'm much more kind of comfortable doing this. I don't know if I could still do absurdist sketch. It was very fun, but you kind of burn out on it. But I think coming in, I felt very comfortable in this job, like right from the start. It just sort of like ticks all the boxes for me. I really like analysis. I like long form writing. I like joke writing, and I can kind of just do all of those things. And doing it all like really with my specific political point of view too. Like there's even other late night shows that I don't think I could make some of the jokes I make on this show. Like we can kind of punch in a lot of different directions. And coming from Canada, I definitely have like a more international perspective, even though Canada's not very far away. Like if I
2 Canadian episodes last season.
One. The Justin Trudeau interview one. Yeah, that was one I had been kind of like pushing from the start. It's like, we got to look at like Canada's like such a cliche in American media, and I would love to take the opportunity to show a different side to it. Like the side I got involved with when I was in Canada. And it never really brought up a lot of interest, but with the help of someone on the news team, we eventually, as the election came up, got their interest. And then Hasan had interviewed Trudeau at the Daily Show with a very like puff piece friendly interview. And so they agreed to another one, not knowing that this would be a very different interview. So that was, very gratifying, and probably one of the most gratifying things in my career, probably.
Okay. I want to follow up on that, but we do have a question from a viewer. Victoria was asking if someone in a writing group has a really bad idea, but they're really jazzed about it, how would you handle that? And thank you, Victoria, for watching.
So if they have a bad idea, wait, I got mixed up. I need to see that again. If someone in the writing group has a really bad idea, but they're really jazzed about, I see. So the person pitching the idea, I mean, how would I handle that? So if it was, in my opinion, wasn't a good idea, because this is all very subjective, right? So it's like, they're really excited about it. I'm not that pumped about it. I think what I would try to find out is like, what is it about that they're excited about? Because when someone's really passionate about something, it's usually there's a seed of something there. So it's like, what is it that's tickling you about this? What is it? That's what's the core thing that's funny? And then you find the kind of jewel to kind of play around with and build on. And as long as you're in the right sketch group together and you both have like similar instincts, you should be able to find that. If that's happening all the time, where you have wildly different senses about what is funny, you probably shouldn't be in the same sketch group. But if you trust each other in that sense, then I think that you can definitely get to that core idea and find something.
Now, you somewhat famously, you ran for Senate in Canada, which is not an elected position.
Very somewhat famously. Come on, let's be real. No one does that. It was very fun, though.
It was fun. So you did your best to generate that little buzz and have that satire, and you treated it very seriously or at least you presented yourself as very serious running for Senate. And for those of you not in Canada, or those of you in Canada that don't understand Canadian politics, the Senate is an appointed chamber in the so it's not quite the same. So you wouldn't run for election. What instigated
when that was kind of the issue for the whole thing, was that the part of the reason it's hard to get interest in that was because a lot of people just didn't really understand or care about like how the Senate worked and how ridiculous it was, or didn't share my passionate my passionate hatred of it. But yeah, lesson learned.
Now, I'm not sure if this is while you were a correspondent for This Hour, but you managed to troll live on air a right-wing talk show host. Was it a talk show host, or was it a?
That was Sun TV. So before Rebel TV went full like white supremacy and international, they were a lot of the people involved were this network, very small TV network called Sun TV, or Sun News TV. I'm not sure exactly what it was called, but I had written this ironic like column to defund the CBC, which I don't want to defund, and they often grind that axe they did at that place. It was one of their only kind of issues because it was their main competition, and so they asked me to appear. I was living in LA at the time. I wasn't working anywhere actually, and they had me go down. Like there was no pre-interview. They just had me go down to the CNN studio in LA and do like that via satellite thing, which I had never done before. So I just was in sort of disbelief. It was very last minute. So I just went and got a bunch of jokes, a lot of which I had done different things, and like just got some core kind of jokes to rattle off and roast them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, they'll probably cut my mic after 30 seconds or something. And they just didn't. It was like the person, Adrian Batcher, I think it was like, she wasn't listening to me. And so I had the tone of voice as though I was on her side, but I was saying these absurd things. So it went on for like 6 minutes, and then they put it online, and then and I recorded it like off my screen, because I'm like, they're for sure going to take this down when they realize what just happened. And then sure enough, they did. And then so I put it up on YouTube, and then that started getting a lot of traction. And then they did a takedown on that. Right. And then I put it back up, because what I learned about YouTube is you could do a takedown notice, but then if someone wants to like counteract your takedown, they would have to actually take real legal action. So I was like, well, I will call their bluff on that. And if they actually want to take me to court, that would be hilarious. So, but they let it go back up.
Sun TV also, I guess two of their famous anchors would have been the Ford brothers. So
they were anchors?
Well, they had their own program.
Did they? I didn't even know that. I knew they had a radio program. I didn't know that. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me though at all. So, yeah.
I'm fairly certain. I haven't researched that. So, but if memory serves, the two of them co-hosted a show.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah. So, what's your? Okay, I want to talk about writing, because this is about writing. Sure. Victoria says that's amazing. And again, if anyone has any questions for Scott, please just put them into the comments. Remember to do the like and the share and all that, which helps the channel grow. I'd like. Okay, I'll talk about the writing first. What writing techniques do you use? You like to write long form. Do you use memory maps, or what are you looking at when you're looking for polishing, or looking for ideas as well?
That's
the question.
Yeah. You might need to get more specific here, because sketch writing is completely. I don't really have much experience with stand-up writing, but like sketch writing, very different from the writing like I do at like Patriot Act, which is different from the writing I did at like Memory Hole. Patriot Act is basically we're given a research book. We're given like 100 pages of research to read. We're given like hundreds of pages of transcript of like videos to watch and read the transcripts of, and you're building a story, basically. Like you're writing a nonfiction story that is both an analysis but also like a kind of like visual journey through the material with clips, which is really challenging in a very specific way, but that a lot of people probably wouldn't like maybe, but it's like because it can be very dry at certain times, whereas like, you know, Memory Hole, I'm looking at completely ridiculous clips and then just writing jokes off of it. So it's more just pure joke writing, whereas like Patriot Act, the joke writing is the very last step.
Okay, so it's more like punch up after the narrative. So the original writing on Patriot Act is you are writing the narrative. That would I could see how difficult that would be. Because
so it's essentially you are writing just straight, but then you have to be able to do joke writing on top of that.
I understand,
and you can find different games and visual games in ways like, and also like something we do a lot of is like understanding something through analogy, like in the way a teacher would, you know, like, so if you can find an analogy that's also funny and then you can just jam jokes into it, then all the better.
What's something that you are the most proud of that made it to air out of the past cycle?
Out of the past cycle? I don't know. I think sorry, now this is not going well. The sunset was really pretty. Okay, there we go.
Pretty, but it's obviously bright in your eyes.
Yeah, there we go. I think I got it here. I mean, this cycle was obviously very weird because we shut down production and then we went and we had a different like quarantine version. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of things had to be rewritten. The main story I worked on was about the two-party system in the US. It was very, very political, like about American politics in a very specific way. So I think my proudest moment was more just a self thing where it was like I got over the hump of understanding something that I just couldn't understand. Like I feel like I learned a lot on that story. And it was through a sort of analogy where I was talking it through with the showrunner, and that it's almost like we're talking about how the Democrats need kind of more voters and more votes, and how Republicans can kind of rule with the minority and they don't need as much support, so they can be more fringe. And then the analogy was like the Democrats are basically like have to please everybody. They're like the Cheesecake Factory. Like the menu is like 50 pages long and it's got everything under there. They got all day breakfast. It's like whatever. Mm-hmm. And Republicans are like Chipotle. Like you got abortions, guns, God. You can have a bowl or a burrito, but that's what it is. And then I started taking that analogy further, and absurdly, it just helped me wrap my head around something that I was having a hard time with. So like
most Canadians have a hard time understanding why there's only two parties in the US. So yeah.
I mean, it's really complicated, and like it's one of those things. And what was difficult about it was more so than any story I've worked on is everybody sort of had an opinion about it, but everybody thought they understood it before they really understood it. And so you're like, okay, I'll take these thoughts, and then you go in and then it doesn't make sense and it's broken. You have to start over. So I've never had a story rewritten so many times like as this one. Whereas like something like the Brazil story, it's like, you know who the bad guys are. The Amazon's being destroyed. That's bad. The president's a psychopath. You know, you've got your bad guys, you've got the story, and then you just have to put it together. This is a much more complicated analysis.
That's great work. I don't. Maybe I should watch the credits on Patriot Act, or well, Netflix sort of like skips ahead on it, so you don't always see it. So I don't know who writes which stories, but that's knowing that is.
I mean, we don't. I mean, and it's always a group effort at the end of the day. Like 2 writers are assigned to each stories to do like the drafts. Like the hardest part is that part I talked about, taking it from a research book to a first draft. But by the time you get to the end, everybody has had a chance to add jokes and
punch up and
try to like punch up. Yeah. So by the end of it, like everybody probably has something in there.
Now we briefly touched on this a little bit earlier. You have a new show that you're producing. It's on Quibi, which is a sort of a new platform. It's mobile only.
I mean, for now, I think they're about to release like a thing where you can at least like watch it on your laptop. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and the episode length for any show that's on it has to be approximately 10 minutes or less, if what I was reading was correct. But you're doing unapologetically Canadian TV show with a Canadian actor who has success in the States. So what was the process for you for developing this? What made you think you wanted to do this?
It was weird that it ended up being Canada sort of became the theme of the first season. Like we're talking about season 2 right now, and it wouldn't be as Canadian, but the Canadian aspect of it came up very organically. There was this video of the Skydome opening, the 1989 Skydome opening, and somebody, I don't know if it was Andy showed it to me or I showed it to him, Andy Bush from Picnicface, but it was like 2013, 2014 when I was in LA, and I just became like obsessed with it. But then I always kind of put it in the back of my head. But I didn't really do anything with it. But I had this idea to do like a clip show, but retro, focused on like retro clips. Mm-hmm. And then I had some time in like 2018, so I just went down to the Skydome with a camera guy I hired, and just shot and edited me sort of like roasting the Skydome. And even then, I was sort of like thinking of it as a proof of concept, but like whatever, I'll throw it online. I'll see if anybody likes it. And it got a like really good response. And someone introduced me to a producer, like someone who liked it. Like, you should talk to Brett Haynes, who works at Shout Factory. He used to run the Comedy Network in Canada. And so the two of us worked. Well, I should say before that, I pitched it in Canada and nobody wanted it. So I did try. I pitched it originally. I was thinking of it as a great CBC thing, because the CBC just has like all these archives.
The archives. Oh my goodness, yeah.
An incredible resource, but yeah, they're just not interested. So we were developing, and then I got the Patriot Act job, and so it went in the back burner. And then eventually we went out to like Comedy Central and True TV, and as like a half hour. But then we had also heard of this new thing, Quibi, that Brent had just had a great meeting with. So we went there as well. And we had the key was having this proof of concept video, because I would not have sold it if it wasn't for that, because it's the most difficult thing, especially with comedy, is like tone, like to explain to someone, how is this going to feel? What's a comedy going to be like? So it became very clear from that video, like, okay, everybody kind of got it. And so we had interest from Quibi and one of the other networks, but we went with Quibi because it was so easy to picture how this could work as like a short show. It's just this, like, I just wanted it to be like every line is a joke. There's jokes over voiceover, like I did with this Skydome video, where it's like, I want it just to be this like,
yeah,
just a freight train of like jokes over like the craziest visual stuff you could find. So it worked much better. If we did a half-hour format, we would have needed, a panel or other kind of things that made it longer. But
yeah, I mean, some of your observations were spot on. Andrea Martin definitely looked like she was in a hostage situation. It was It's if I now there is not a free version of Quibi at this point, but it's I think it's $6.99
there's a
Canadian.
free trial.
No, there is
not even free trial. There was like a 90-day one, but yeah, if you were slow on that, then
I was slow. But it's yeah, the entire channel has a lot of things, and it's good to see that there are new formats coming out for writers to be presenting their material.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about streaming is you can do something in shorter form, and you're not restricted by the 22-minute. Because I don't like it would have felt very restrictive doing this in a 22-minute format, or it would have felt like it weakened it. But yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, the streaming format in itself it rewards people who do it longer. YouTube wants the longer content, and Facebook wants the longer content. So it sort of encourages us to do longer videos more often, and that's why most of the streaming community and Twitch, for example, is dominated by people who do video game playthroughs.
Right.
So, which is an aspect.
The Facebook, YouTube. I was thinking more of the program, like the new streaming services, like Quibi or Netflix and that, which is new, but that are kind of like right now the home for like narrative storytelling and that kind of thing.
Yeah, again, it's for the break-in market kind of thing. It's YouTube and Facebook, but for the people who can actually mount a proper production like you have with Memory Hole, that is the kind of thing that it goes for. Now, how did you get Will Arnett on board? Was he like your first choice, or?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is, I guess, money. I mean,
just yeah. I know when people prepare a show Bible, they'll have like the dream list cast, and then they'll have the second list. And I know that I just realized in asking this, I'm asking you, was he your first choice, or are you going to insult him?
No, he was, because it was like we wanted someone Canadian and someone that could do because I basically wrote it in my voice, so it's like who can deliver jokes where I don't have to wildly rewrite them or like write them in a different voice that's not my own. So that was it, and I was just a fan, and he's Canadian. That like Quibi, basically, once we had this Skydome thing, like they liked the Canadian angle of it, and I just had a lot of old Canadian stuff that I knew of, and shout out to like Retro Ontario, who introduced me to the Skydome video and some of this other stuff too.
And I'm never going to watch Littlest Hobo the same. No spoilers.
Yeah, well, I mean, to give myself some credit, I did watch every episode all the way through, all 114 episodes. That was original research. But
if I remember correctly,
I mean, the other thing I was going to say was like, you have to pay a certain amount of money, obviously, but they also have to like what it is and like are comfortable attaching their name to it. So I think with him, we sent him a package of kind of explaining what the show was and sent him the proof of concept video, and he like got it, and he's like, yeah, this is great, I like it, and he was game to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's the other half of it,
which is great, and it's also good that he got it as well, which it doesn't always happen sometimes. And
yeah, because I mean, you can get like, that's the nightmare, is when if you had someone, because it's kind of like there's a music to jokes and a rhythm, and if someone doesn't have it, it just you can completely break everything. And he's a natural.
Yeah, and I guess all right, this is a not a polite question, but I guess because getting Will Arnett, because he is Canadian, also allowed you to get some tax benefits in shooting in Canada for the content.
No, we didn't shoot in Canada.
Oh, you didn't shoot in Canada? Okay.
No, that we shot in LA.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's where he lives,
Right.
and that's where the production company is. So I did this while working at Patriot Act, and they were very gracious to let me. I took a month off the show to go to LA and do a writer's room and finish up the scripts and shoot some of those like the Littlest Hobo thing where we got actors and did this little reenactment thing. Like we had to shoot some of those things as well. So yeah, so we didn't end up getting that advantage, which would have been nice, but yeah, there's lots of Canadians in LA.
Yes, there are. Now, I know that you have a heart out. We're not quite there yet. But one of the things, how has your life adjusted? I mean, you're in New York, with the city where the protests are happening, but also one of the worst hit American cities for COVID. You guys had the lockdown for Patriot Act. How has your life adjusted around that?
I mean, much like everyone else's, like it just I mean, everything just happened really fast. It got to the point where I didn't go into work, and then I'm like, all right, I'm not comfortable coming into work. It was like March 12th, and then but I had my assignment that I could just do at home, and then the next day they shut it all down, and then there was a national emergency, I think, declared the next day. So then it was just like, locked up and it's much looser now. Like at that time, it was just everywhere here. So and I had been riding the subway, and then I was feeling weird. My roommate was feeling weird, and she actually has antibodies. So I might have antibodies and might have had it. It's like more than a fifth of the city has had it, apparently.
Okay.
But yeah, and then it was just like ambulance sirens like all the time. Basically, I'm in Queens, which is, I think, the hardest hit borough. So yeah, it was just bleak. And then more recently, the ambulance sirens faded, and then it became cop sirens and helicopters, and that's not been so much in Queens. I have a lot of friends in Brooklyn where that's been a lot more hairy, but also, at the same time, I think very positive and a much more like heartening and hopeful thing than the coronavirus. So yeah, but it's interesting to be in like the middle of the action where people are emailing you saying you all right, when your life really, when you look at the window, isn't that much different from everyone else. You're just spending more time looking at the window, your contacts, and there's not a lot of excitement.
I'm currently in Montreal, and we are I don't know if we still currently are, but we were the seventh hardest hit per capita deaths from COVID. So we still have the lockdown here. Other places in Canada, bars and restaurants are opening up. They are not opening up yet here in Montreal. They have been available for takeout, etc., but no eat in. The libraries have announced that by the 22nd, they're going to be doing curbside and drop-offs for people returning and getting books. So it's been pretty hard hit here, but we've also had George Floyd protests as well.
Yeah, I saw that. It's amazing just seeing it just everywhere, all around the world and across Canada. And yeah, it's fantastic.
Is there anything else that you want to address? Or if there's anyone out there, I see that we have some watchers who have a question for Scott. I've just put his website, which is more of your portfolio website. So there's a lot of videos up there, scottvrooman.org. And Vrooman does have two O's.
Oh, I really appreciate you saying my name right. It's very rare that someone pronounces my name correctly.
We went through this in Halifax.
Oh, right, because I would do stand-up when we first met, and
very rarely. I think you
introduced me on the mic. Yeah.
So
and I did that with a lot of people. Yeah, I would tell them how to pronounce my name.
It's Vrooman rhymes with Roman.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had this conversation with Hasan because I've said like well, now I don't even remember how I was pronouncing it, but like everybody says it wrong. And then he had this thing on Ellen where he corrected her, which is pretty ballsy move from what I know about Ellen. And since then, yeah, it's we had this conversation about not like, it's just such a pain in the neck to correct people on the pronunciation of your name when you first meet them that you just don't, it's just not something you bother with most of the time. But when you're someone like him and you're getting famous and people are still pronouncing your name wrong, then it's time to like, he made a good, like, you know.
Yeah, my last name is Ash, which can't be pronounced properly in Quebec because it's the French Canadian accent. They put H's in front of any word that begins with a vowel.
Right.
So this I'm very popular with smokers. Comedy-wise, around in the world now that like you obviously you're spending more time inside. What are you doing for entertainment? Are you watching more, or are you writing more, or are you? Did you take up darts?
I have not taken up darts. I don't know what I've been watching. I was just watching a lot of movies and things. I go through phases, but yeah, I don't watch that much comedy other than, which is ridiculous. I watched Last Week Tonight, which is like the most similar to the one I work on. But I'm trying to get into Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's not quite
25 years later, but
yeah, it's on Netflix, and so I came across it, but I don't know, it's just not really doing it for me. I watched the old Star Treks and I really like enjoyed them, but I think there's this like kitsch about it that's sort of funny, whereas with Star Trek Next Generation, it's like it's slick, like technically it's well done, but yeah, I don't know.
If I can suggest something, it's McFarlane, the guy behind Family Guy, has the Orville.
Oh, the Orville,
right? Which
I've heard of that.
The first 3 or 4 episodes, it actually takes a little bit to find the rhythm, but it is actually more along the lines of the original Star Trek than anything that's been since J.J. Abrams had his fingers in.
Yeah, it's weird. I remember I watched the pilot for it, and it was like, it was strange because I didn't quite get what it was trying to do, because it was like,
well, that's just it. It seemed too scattered.
Especially when it's Seth MacFarlane, where it's like, clearly you could have put a joke there and you decided not to. Or like, why did you have that scene when there wasn't anything funny and nothing happened? Yeah, I don't know. I was very confused about the pilot with that, and I didn't really watch much after that. But yeah, maybe it's worth a revisit.
Yep. I mean, there is foundation stuff that's in the early episodes, so I don't recommend skipping them. But as it went, it did kind of grow. Other than that, you and your roommate are doing fine. You potentially have antibodies, which is a good thing.
That would be nice. Yeah, we still don't know what that would, how much protection that would give, but I'm hoping I can go. I mean, you could get them anywhere here. Like I could go get one, but I just haven't bothered.
A test, yeah, because the vaccines are not anywhere yet. But all right, Scott, I want to thank you very much. Is there any parting comments you want to leave? It's good seeing you. Good to talk to you. We haven't seen each other.
That was going to be my parting comment. That it was very nice to see you. It's been a long time, and hopefully not so long before the next time.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, you mentioned Ginger's. The space is now a high-end restaurant.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
I guess it's still better than condo. I thought you were going to say condo.
Yeah, no, there's condos across the street, but the original Ginger sign was saved, and I believe Ian Black has it. So it still exists.
That's good to know. Part of our heritage.
Part of our heritage. Yeah, there's a Canadian heritage moment. You had if I remember, somebody from back that time had the box set of the Canadian heritage moments. That wasn't you? No. Okay.
I just got them up here.
Yeah, exactly.
And in here.
In here, my wife makes fun of me for that, so it's all good. Scott, it's been a pleasure. More continued success to you, and thank you very much for coming on They Talk Funny.
Thanks, Paul.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna pop out. There's no final ending credits whatsoever, but Scott's website is there, and it's time to go out and write some more comedy.
Here we go.